Well, greetings, pinball fans, and welcome to another episode of Alpha Bravo Pinball. Today on the program, transforming your game and giving it that high-end look like a Stern LE. If you're like me and you really like that look, but you don't want to spend the big bucks on an LE when it's the same game in premium, I'm going to show you how to transform your game and give it that high-end look. I've already done so, I would say, successfully on my Rush machine. I made it red, and I think it works really well with the color scheme of the game. Today we're going to do Godzilla in blue. Is blue going to work? Is it going to be horrible? Is it going to be great? You got to watch and find out. Let's go. Alright, it's upgrade time, folks. Today we're going to make our own version of a Stern limited edition pinball machine. If you saw my previous video, you've seen that recently I've had the privilege of borrowing a top-of-the-line Foo Fighters limited edition pinball machine. As I covered in that video, most of Stern's releases, such as this one, are available in 3 different trim levels: a cost-reduced Pro model, a full-featured Premium model, and a blinged-out Limited Edition model. The cheaper Premium Edition games have identical gameplay to their Limited Edition counterparts, and often the even less expensive Pro models are just as fun to play, so for my money, the smart buy is almost always either the Premium or Pro level trim. While the upgrades on limited edition games are really nice, it's worth pointing out that you can do many of those upgrades yourself on any game, and for way less money than the price to step up to a limited edition game. In this video, I'm going to show you how that beautiful, glossy, metallic, powder-coated finish, typically found only on limited edition games, is no exception to the list of upgrades you can do yourself, and a really great way to upgrade the visual appeal of your game. Now, Stern doesn't go around announcing who their suppliers are, but I think it's a safe bet that they, and probably other pinball machine companies, use a company called Prismatic Powders. Check out this swatch I have for Prismatic's Illusion Sour Apple, a perfect match for the trim on Foo Fighters. As far as I'm concerned, Prismatic is the place to shop for Powdercoat colors online. I especially recommend their Illusion line of colors. Check out my Rush Premium Edition that I did previously in Prismatic's Illusion Red. I think this project turned out really great. Choosing a color, of course, is the first step in undertaking such a project, and on some games that's a lot more obvious than on others. For Rush, I chose red to key off the red lettering on the Rush logo on the cabinet. I think in general, it's good to choose a color that is more of an accent color on the artwork of the game, and not the dominant color on the majority of the cabinet artwork. Today we're going to do the trim on my Godzilla Premium, and on this game it's not nearly as obvious to choose a color. I think a lot of different colors would actually work on this game, including red and yellow keying off the Godzilla text, and even green. However, I'm going to go a different direction: blue. There's a decent amount of blue in the artwork here, and I think it'll work, but we'll see. I've never seen this game done in this color before, so we're going to have to take a chance and see how it turns out. So how are we going to do this project? You can absolutely remove all of the trim on your game, send it off for powder coating, and then reinstall it, but in the meantime you're left with an unplayable game with no legs. For me, it was worth investing in a second set of trim that I can send off for powder coat while keeping my game playable in the meantime. The trim I will remove from Godzilla once the colored parts come in will be stashed away, so I can either revert the game back to stock later — this is a completely reversible modification — or use this trim to powder coat a different game down the line. Here are the 9 parts we need to do ready to go out. And through the magic of video editing, boom, back from the powder coating shop in Prismatic's Illusion Blueberry. I had my parts done at a local powder coating shop in my city. While you can certainly do it via mail order online, it will save you on shipping both ways to do it locally, and you can probably get your parts back more quickly that way as well. If you are going to look for a powder coating shop in your city, you're not likely to find a place with expertise in pinball machine parts, of course, but my recommendation is to look for a shop that has photos advertising that they do either car parts or motorcycle parts. They are far more likely to have experience with Prismatic Powder's finishes. With that said, it's time to start swapping parts. I'm going to start with the legs here. And with the legs, you may find that you need to re-tap the holes in order to get any excess powder coat out of the threads there and be able to screw the leg levelers in, like I'm doing here. Other than that, the legs are definitely the easiest part of this process, and one additional note, I like to use some plastic washers under the leg bolts to protect the powder-coated finish. Next, we'll do the backbox hinge and the side trim. Step 1 here, unplug the game. We're going to be removing some bolts that are very close to the high voltage power supply section. There are 2 bolts that hold the top of the backbox hinge, and you'll find them at the bottom of the backbox. After that, you can undo the big bolt holding the bottom side of the hinge. The big bolt is on the inside of the cabinet towards the back. And you want to hold on to that hinge as you undo the bolt and then carefully take the hinge off the side of the game. Removing the hinge gives you access to the side trim, which again is just bolts right off. There's 1 bolt in the back, 1 bolt in the front, and 2 screws on the side. The front side bolt is sometimes a little bit stubborn, but once you've removed the nut, yep, you just need to kind of push it out from the inside and pry from the outside, and it'll eventually come out. Just be careful not to bend your side trim as you do this. Now we'll simply do the reverse steps to reinstall the blue colored trim, starting with the side rail and then the hinge. You'll probably notice here that I'm using the factory black colored hardware. It's certainly an option to have this hardware powder coated as well for a matching finish, but I choose to keep mine black. This is how Stern does it, and personally I'm just not a fan of the matchy look with powder coated hardware. But it's your choice. If you think it looks better that way, by all means powder coat your hardware as well. You'll be following the same process to replace the right side trim. The only difference being that the bolts holding the backbox hinge are inaccessible under a power supply cover. There's only 2 more screws to remove to get access to these bolts. Again, here I will remind you, never remove this cover with the game plugged in. You always want to unplug the game first. Also keep in mind that capacitors can hold a charge even with the game unplugged. With that said, the process for the right side trim is the same as the left. Next, we'll do the lockdown bar, my favorite part of this entire process. Of all the colored pieces we're replacing on the game, the lockdown bar is by far the most obvious to you as a player. It's the part that your hands rest on when you're playing and sits right in front of you as well. There are a few parts to transfer over from the original lockdown bar to the powder-coated one, including the beer seal, some clear vinyl protective stickers, and of course the action button. Once you're done with these steps, the lockdown bar, of course, just drops right into the game. That is the last of the powder-coated trim to replace on the game, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, we're done. But wait, there's one more thing. The backbox. The backbox has plastic edging around the perimeter of it called T-molding. On my Godzilla premium game, this molding is black, but it doesn't look great with the blue trim that I just installed. So we're going to replace the T-molding as well. We'll start by removing the original factory black tea molding, and you can do this simply by prying at it starting from the bottom and working your way around. Switching back to the work table, if you take a look at the original black trim that we just removed, you'll notice some notches in the T part of the T molding. This is because T molding really doesn't like to bend around a tight corner. And removing this section of the T molding makes it way easier to round the corners. So I've ordered 2 different shades of blue here to replace our T molding and decided to go with a lighter shade. I think it's going to go well with the blue powder coated parts. And we're going to take some time here to replicate these cuts where the T part of the molding has been removed, and that'll make it way easier to install. To install the replacement trim, we're going to start along the bottom edge, just like the original factory stuff was done, and work our way around. You start by pushing it in with just your fingers, and then to get it all the way in and completely even, I like to give little taps with a rubber mallet. By the way, did you catch my mistake earlier when I removed the factory black trim? Yep, I had the glass off. Learn from my mistakes, folks. You want the glass on when you're doing this because you'll get wood chips flying everywhere. Time to break out the air compressor and clean up the mess I made. And with that, we're done, folks. Let's take a look at our work and see how this project turned out. Does the blue trim look good? Yes, I think it does. If you look at the art blades, the apron, the cabinet, there's plenty of blues in there. And I really do think this blue trim looks great on Godzilla. I do still think there's many possibilities for this game and some other colors would work well as well. But for my lineup with Rush and my other games, I'm very happy to have done it in blue and very happy with the results overall. We'll close out the video here with some beauty shots of my games and lineup. And I hope that this video was helpful and that you have all the knowledge you need to go do this upgrade to your own games. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and join me again next time for more pinball here on Alpha Bravo Pinball.